A bee took his wife. Ken from the Bee Movie is without a doubt the most gaslit man in cinematic history. He is just a completely normal guy. He plays tennis, he has a normal job, and he is trying to build a life with his girlfriend, Vanessa. Then, one day, a literal insect flies into their apartment. He does what any sane human being on the planet would do. He grabs a magazine to squash it. Instead of thanking him, his girlfriend physically stops him, gives the bee a tiny cup of coffee, and starts having full conversations with it. From that moment on, Ken's entire reality is shattered. He has to sit there and watch his future wife slowly leave him for a honeybee. Not a superhero, not a prince cursed to look like a frog, just a regular-sized, sweater-wearing insect. When Ken finally snaps in the bathroom, screaming about how bees shouldn't be able to talk and trying to flush Barry down the toilet, the movie treats him like an absolute villain. On top of it, she literally chooses the bee's life over him.
Why does his life have any less value than yours?
What?
His girlfriend eventually kicks him out of the apartment for trying to defend his home from a literal pest. His crash out wasn't just valid, it was the only normal reaction in the entire film. Betrayed. Hiro Hamada's crash out in Big Hero 6 is one of the darkest, most raw depictions of grief in an animated movie. Up until this point, Hiro believes his older brother Tadashi died in a tragic, unavoidable accident. But when he finally unmasks the villain and realizes it was Professor Callahan, Tadashi's own mentor, who he ran in to save him, Hiro desperately reminds Callahan that Tadashi died trying to save him. He just looks a grieving 14-year-old kid directly in the eye and coldly states,
"That was his mistake."
That single line is the exact moment Hiro's mind completely shatters. Hiro immediately stops trying to be a hero. He violently opens Baymax's chest port, rips out the green healthcare chip that his dead brother spent years building, and leaves only the red combat chip. With a completely deadpan, furious expression, Hiro gives a single chilling command.
Destroy him!
Hiro isn't trying to capture Callahan for the police anymore. He is actively trying to take him out. And honestly, after staring at the man responsible for his brother's death and hearing him brush it off like it was nothing, completely weaponizing a robot was a 100% justified crash out. False hope. Tai Lung didn't just wake up one day and decide to be a villain. He was literally groomed from infancy by Master Shifu to believe he was the chosen. Shifu pushed him to his absolute physical and mental limits, filling his head with the promise of a grand destiny and making him believe the Dragon Scroll was his birthright. But when the big day finally comes, Master Oogway takes one look at him and casually rejects him. He just denies him his life's purpose. But the real betrayal wasn't Oogway, it was Shifu. Tai Lung immediately looks at the father figure who trained him, the man who planted this exact dream in his head, waiting for him to object or at least defend his hard work. And Shifu just stands there. He doesn't say a single word to defend his own adopted son. Imagine dedicating every waking second of your entire life to making your father proud, breaking your own bones to achieve the one goal he set for you, only to be cast aside like trash without a single explanation. Tai Lung's rampage through the Valley of Peace wasn't just some random act of evil. It was the agonizing, explosive crash out of a broken, betrayed kid who realized his entire existence was a lie. Wasted talent. Syndrome, originally known as Buddy Pine, wasn't born evil. He was just a genius-level kid with an extreme obsession for Mr. Incredible. He literally invented working rocket boots in his garage just to get his hero's attention and help him fight crime. But instead of gently turning him down or offering to mentor a kid who was clearly a prodigy, Mr. Incredible physically throws him into the back of a police car and harshly rejects him. In that exact moment, Buddy's entire worldview shatters. He realizes that if you aren't born with the right genetics, they look down on you and treat you like you don't matter. So, Buddy decides to completely level the playing field. He spends the next 15 years grinding, using his own raw intellect to build technology that perfectly mimics superpowers. His ultimate goal isn't just revenge. He wants to sell his weapons so that everyone in the world can be super, making the genetic lottery completely irrelevant. Yes, his methods were a bit questionable. But his core crash out, the realization that society shouldn't worship people just because they were born lucky, was 100% valid. Blind society. If Syndrome's crash out in the first movie was driven by a wounded ego, Evelyn Deaver's crash out in Incredibles 2 is driven by pure trauma. She isn't a flamboyant villain who wants to take over the world. She is just a grieving daughter who realized that society has a fatal flaw. When Evelyn was a child, burglars broke into her home. Her father had a perfectly secure safe room he could have used to protect his family. Instead, he chose to rely on the direct phone lines to his superhero friends, Gazerbeam and Pharaonic. But because supers had been forced into hiding, no one answered the call, and her father was murdered. While her brother Winston took away the lesson that they needed to bring superheroes back, Evelyn realized her parents died because they waited around for a savior instead of saving themselves. Evelyn orchestrates a massive, brilliant conspiracy. She creates the Screenslaver, a figure to permanently destroy the public's trust in superheroes by making them look reckless and dangerous. Hypnotizing innocent people is obviously wrong, but blindly trusting strangers in capes to save your life is a fatal mistake, which makes her right. Left at the altar. Years ago, Zeta was deeply in love with the mighty eagle. They were engaged to be married, but on the exact day of their wedding, while she was standing right there at the altar in front of everyone, he completely panicked. Instead of just talking to her, he literally just abandoned her. He didn't just leave the relationship, he fled to a tropical paradise, rebranded himself as a revered, untouchable hero, and left Zeta completely alone to raise their daughter in a miserable, freezing wasteland. Zeta completely loses her mind and builds a volcano superweapon. She starts launching lava-filled ice balls at his island, trying to take him out. She didn't just want a warm beach. She wanted to completely obliterate the comfortable life of the coward who wasted her youth and left her stranded. As far as ex-girlfriend revenge plots go, this is the ultimate valid crash out. Lost his daughter. Professor Callahan lost his only daughter through a science experiment conducted by Alistair Cray, who clearly knew it wasn't safe. Callahan wasn't interested in world domination or stealing money. He was a respected professor and a loving father. But everything was ripped away from him by Alistair Cray, a reckless, greedy tech billionaire. During a teleportation experiment, Cray deliberately ignored critical safety warnings just to secure government funding. Because of that corporate greed, the portal collapsed, and Callahan had to stand there and watch helplessly as his only daughter, Abigail, was sucked into the void. Cray faced zero consequences. When the justice system fails to punish the billionaire who destroyed your family, what else are you supposed to do? Callahan completely snapped. He faked his own death, stole Hero's revolutionary microbot tech, and dedicated every waking second of his life to systematically dismantling Cray and taking his life. Starting the fire that killed Tadashi was evil, but the core root of Callahan's crash out, of losing his child to corporate negligence, and deciding to tear that CEO's life apart piece by piece, is a valid human reaction. Wasted life. Death from Puss in Boots is an unstoppable force of nature. For years, he sat back and watched this incredibly arrogant cat treat the sacred gift of mortality like an absolute joke, throwing away 8 lives on pointless, reckless stunts. Puss's sheer disrespect for life finally pushes Death over the edge. Death completely breaks the rules and decides to crash out personally. He shows up at a pub, drops the Grim Reaper formalities, and decides he is going to hunt Puss down early just to humble him. When he draws blood and makes the fearless hero experience genuine, paralyzing panic for the first time in his life, it is a statement. During their final duel, Death doesn't hold back. He furiously screams about how sick he is of Puss's arrogance. His crash out is basically the ultimate reality check. He isn't being evil, he is enforcing the natural order of the universe. When an immortal entity gets so fed up with your ego that he manifests as a terrifying wolf just to personally put you in the dirt, you have to admit, his rage is 100% valid.